A name that still splits the Walking Dead fandom right down the middle. Some people call him a realist, the guy who saw the world for what it was before anyone else. Others call him the first real villain of the apocalypse. But here's the thing, Shane isn't misunderstood. He's not a man ahead of his time, not some tragic figure who did what had to be done. He's a man who confused control for survival, obsession for love, and paranoia for leadership. You can't call someone misunderstood when every hard choice they make is about their own ego. Shane wasn't trying to save people, he was trying to keep control of them. Let's start at the beginning, the hospital. When the outbreak hit, Shane actually tried to save Rick. He went into that hospital, saw soldiers gunning down civilians, and panicked. He checked Rick's vitals, realized he was still alive, but then the power goes out. He puts his ear on Rick's chest, hoping to hear a heartbeat, but according to him, he got nothing. So he barricades the door with a gurney and leaves his best friend. And this right here is where Shane's whole story begins. Not as a betrayal, but as a failure. He couldn't save Rick, so he told himself that Rick was dead, and that became the foundation for everything he did after. Shane convinces Lori and Carl that Rick's gone. They leave Atlanta behind, and along the way, he steps into that protector role. He becomes the de facto leader, the guy who calls the shots, keeps the group safe, but more importantly, he becomes Lori's protector. In days gone by, we see the first cracks. Lori's frustrated, wants to put up signs warning people not to go into the city. Shane shuts it down.
That's a luxury we can't afford. You piss me all you want, it's not gonna change anything.
Later in the tent, he reminds her that she has to be strong for Carl. Then he kisses her and she lets him, because at this point, she believes Rick is gone. People love to defend this moment like it's romantic, but think about it. This entire relationship is built on a lie. The only reason they're together is because their husband and best friend is dead. I wouldn't call that romantic. By the episode Guts, Shane is fully in that father figure role, teaching Carl how to tie knots by the fire, pretending everything's normal. But when Amy wants to send a rescue team for Andrea because her and the others got stuck at that department store, Shane refuses.
See, she's trapped. She's gone. So we just have to deal with that.
She's my sister, you son of a bitch.
It's his first major decision as leader that we see, and it tells you everything about him, or at least gives you a slight idea. He does not care about other survivors. He only cares about keeping his people safe. And by his people, I mean Lori and Carl. This is where Shane's logic starts to rot. Protect the group becomes protect my family, which quickly becomes protect what I think is mine. When Rick walks back into camp and tells it to the frogs, Shane's whole world collapses. You can see it on his face. At first, he's stunned. Then Carl and Lori run to Rick, and you watch a look of envy twist across Shane's face like the reopening of a wound. Rick tells his story, how he woke up, fought through Atlanta, and somehow survived. Everyone's listening like he's a miracle. And Shane, he's sitting there with a distasteful gaze, realizing he's no longer the hero. Later, when Lori tells Carl to stay away from him, Shane tries to plead with her.
Okay, you think that I'm not happy about that?
How dare you? Why would you be? You are the one that told me that he died.
That's the first real cut. You can see it. The guilt, the anger, and jealousy. So when he sees Ed abusing his wife and antagonizing the other women, Shane explodes. He damn near beats the man to death. Everyone clapped when Shane beat Ed, because he most certainly deserved it. But that's exactly the point. Shane hid behind other people's evil to justify his own rage. He wasn't protecting anyone, he was venting. That wasn't justice, that was displacement. In the later runtime of episode 4, walkers invade camp and Shane's instincts kick in. He guards Lori and Carl. After making a path for themselves, he eventually tells the others to make their way to the RV. Then Rick arrives in time to help save the camp. He and the others neutralize the threat, and then Rick calls out for his family. Shane giving more of his distasteful glares. When the group has had some time to gather their thoughts, it's time for a new plan. Rick wants to take Jim to the CDC, hoping for a cure. Shane wants to go to Fort Benning, the army base, something safe and predictable. They argue for a second, but Lori backs Rick up. This obviously doesn't make Shane too happy as he pulls Rick away, saying they need to do their sweep. During this moment, Shane oversteps yet again, saying how he needs to be thinking of his family and if he's really willing to put them at risk, with Rick reiterating how he is doing this for his family. This shows how Shane thinks that he knows what's best for Lori and Carl, not their husband/father. Again, reinforcing how Shane thinks he's better than Rick, yet at the same time, he goes on to aim his freaking gun at Rick. But he comes back down to earth and Dale sees the whole thing.
Jesus.
People forget, this is the first time Shane truly crosses that line. The moment he points that gun, he's already made his choice. Rick's death just hasn't caught up yet. I have no doubt that in his mind, he feels Rick just swooped in, not only taking Lori and Carl, but could potentially be wresting leadership away from him. And while we're at it, Fort Benning was stupid. First and foremost, Shane saw the military gun down people in the hospital, even if they weren't sick. Why wouldn't they do the same to the group? Even then, the military was at the front lines of the outbreak, and they failed. Yet you think a single base survived?
We ran across a grunt who was stationed at Benny. Said the place is overrun by lame brains.
Wait, Fort Benning is gone?
When they reach the CDC, it feels like a temporary peace. They get showers, food, and alcohol. For one night, it's almost normal again. But of course, Shane can't handle normal. Drunk and desperate, he corners Lori, confessing that he still loves her. When she rejects him, he snaps. He starts to force himself on her until she digs her nails into his neck. Shane goes on to lie about the scratches the next day, saying he did it to himself. This is the moment where misunderstood Shane should die for everybody. He didn't make a mistake. He assaulted Lori, lied about it, and then sat across from her husband at breakfast the next morning, pretending to be his best friend.
Never seen you do that before.
Me neither. Not like me at all.
Later on, when Dr. Jenner locks the group inside and tells everyone the CDC is about to self-destruct, Shane's fear turns into rage again. He points a shotgun at Jenner's head, threatening to kill the only man who could allow their escape. And Shane goes on to shoot computers behind Jenner, potentially damaging the necessary equipment to unlock the doors. Then Rick goes on to tackle and disarm Shane. Once again, Rick saves everyone, and once again, Shane is humiliated. Every time Rick shows up, Shane loses something. His leadership, his control, his identity. By the time they leave the CDC, Shane's not protecting Lori anymore. He's hunting her, and the man who took her back. That's where season 1 leaves Shane, still alive, still armed, and slowly losing his grip on reality. He's no longer the group leader, no longer Lori's protector, and no longer Rick's friend. He's just a man whose realism has turned into resentment. And by the time season 2 begins, Shane's obsession with proving himself right becomes the spark that burns everything down. You can already feel it. The mask is slipping, and once they reach Herschel's farm, Shane doesn't even pretend to be noble anymore. That's where his story stops being a slow burn and becomes an explosion. Season 2 starts on the highway, with the group stranded and surrounded by wrecked cars. They're exhausted, desperate, and Shane's patience is gone. He's pulling away from Lori and Carl, saying he plans to leave the first chance he gets. He claims it's for the best, but we know what that really means. He's trying to look noble, the whole "I'll just disappear, make things easier for you" act. But he's not doing this for her. I really wouldn't be surprised if he's doing it to see if she'll beg him to stay.
Just trying to be the good guy here, Laura, even if you don't see it. Trying to make this easier. This ain't easy on any of us, least of all me. I'm the one who loses here.
When Carl's accidentally shot during a deer hunt, Shane volunteers to go with Otis to get medical supplies. On paper, it looks like redemption, the hero making the hard call, but that illusion burns up as soon as things go wrong. They get trapped inside a high school surrounded by walkers. They fight their way out, running low on ammo, gasping for air. Then, Otis and Shane both hurt their legs. But when they get a horde going behind them, Shane looks over his shoulder and makes his choice. He shoots Otis in the leg, takes the bag, and listens as Otis screams while the walkers eat him alive. Shane limps back to the farm, haunted but calm. He tells everyone Otis didn't make it and even comes up with a beautiful lie at his funeral. He even shaves his head, staring blankly into the mirror like he's shedding the last bit of guilt left in him. This is honestly where I'd say the person who Shane was is completely gone. And the scene with him cutting his hair off is used to symbolize it as well. And I know there's a debate going on in the fandom about whether or not Shane was right, but Shane and Otis were keeping pace. You could even argue they were moving a bit faster than the walkers. On top of that, there was a pretty big gap between them. They both would have absolutely made it out of there if Shane didn't panic. Leaving Otis as bait just guaranteed that Shane was the one who lived. Once Herschel's farm becomes their safe haven, Rick wants to build trust. He's trying to make peace, go slow, and establish some kind of community again. But Shane sees weakness, and he goes on to sabotage the group at every turn. When they learn Sophia's still missing, everyone insists on searching. Shane calls it a waste of time, going on to tell the group they need to just accept it. That line defines them both, and it also shows how Shane is the odd man out. Rick and the others want to do their absolute best to save people. Shane wants to save control. This is the irony of Shane's realism. He thinks compassion is weakness, but in the apocalypse, compassion is what separates survivors from monsters. Without it, you're just a ticking time bomb. Later, when the group finds the barn full of walkers, Shane loses it.
Enough! Risking our lives for a little girl who's gone! Enough! If you want to survive, you gotta fight for it! I'm talking about fight right here! Right now!
Then he opens fire, unloading round after round until every walker drops, including Sophia. It's one of the show's most haunting moments. Sophia stumbling out of the barn as a walker and the group realizing Shane was right just this one time. But even that moment of truth doesn't make him right. It just makes him dangerous. That's the tragedy of it. The one time Shane's realism lines up with reality, it reinforces all his worst instincts. It tells him, you were right. Rick's the problem. From here on out, there's no turning back.
An insurrection, hand out guns, and massacre his family.
His family's dead, right?
Well, he doesn't believe that. He thinks you just murdered them.
No, man, I don't care what he thinks. Why would I?
Here we are at a bridge. On one turn, I absolutely feel like the barn should have been cleared out. Herschel's way of seeing the walkers is straight up delusional. Not only that, but he knows that the world isn't what it used to be. He goes on about how Rick and the others will have to be careful and there are a ton of farms they can choose from now. Nonetheless, it's his farm, so it's his rules, and once again, the way Shane went about it was not right. After Rick informs Herschel they knew about the barn, he tells them they'll have to be out by the end of the week. The man is already not keen on having you at his home, and Shane goes on to not only arm every person, which Herschel didn't want, but he rips open the barn doors and they mow down the walkers who Herschel viewed as family. Not saying I agree with Herschel, but the issue here is per usual, Shane acted out of place, in fury, and now the whole group has to suffer for it.
I mean it. Off my land.
And on top of that, all that gunfire could have drawn walkers to the farm. It's a miracle it didn't. When they find Randall, the kid from the other group, the plan is to get him back up on his feet and set him free 18 miles out away from the barn. And of course, that doesn't work for Shane. It's obvious he wants the kid dead after first finding out about him.
How many of them were there? You killed 3 of their men, you took one of them hostage, but they just ain't gonna come looking for him. They left him for dead. No one is looking.
And this is another part where I understand both sides. I mean, yeah, why would the group who left him to die come searching for him? Why would he want to go back to the people who left him? In a lot of their eyes, he's just a kid.
Man and his 2 daughters, real young, real cute. But Daddy had to watch while these guys, No, but I didn't touch those girls.
And this is where I can agree that Randall had to die. Because why is that the first thing you bring up when being tortured? On top of that being irrelevant, they just want to know where your guys are and how many of them. Then he sees Daryl's reaction and pleads that he didn't touch them. I honestly feel like he said that because he thought Daryl looked out of place with the group. All Randall saw was your typical white redneck who's probably just as bad as him. Maybe he thought Daryl was going to have mercy. Regardless, it's obvious the point of this storyline was to show the group, more specifically Rick, struggling with their morality, as well as Shane and Rick being irreparably at odds. So the Randall situation really just played out how it was supposed to. The best thing for them to have done was mercy kill Randall while he was pinned on that fence, honestly. But the issue is that Shane did not kill Randall for the better of the group. He did it so he could have the perfect story to isolate, then kill Rick and take back what he thought was his. This is where Shane's entire philosophy falls apart. He keeps saying he's doing what's necessary, but if it was really necessary, why lie? Why not own it? Because he knows what he's doing isn't about the group anymore. It's about eliminating anything that threatens his control, including Rick. By now, everyone's wary of Shane. Tensions are high and Rick's finally realizing that his best friend is beyond saving. Lori even says such things to Rick.
Shane thinks I'm his. He's dangerous, Rick, and he won't stop.
Rick tries to reason with him, lowering his weapon, saying how Shane can't just walk back on the farm without him and Randall. Shane's not just jealous anymore, he's convinced this is destiny. Rick steps forward slowly, saying there's still a way back from this. And then, in a moment that perfectly sums up both men, Rick pretends to surrender. He hands over his gun and stabs Shane right in the heart.
Damn you for making me do this shit. This was you, not me.
Moments later, Carl finds them. Rick tells him to stay back, but Shane gets up reanimated as a walker, proving Jenner told the truth. They're all infected. And Carl shoots Shane right through the head. It's poetic, really. Rick says how they need to start using their knives more than their guns, and here he is exercising that idea. Shane thought Rick was weak, and yet he's still standing. The man who called himself a realist dies, proving he never understood the world he lived in. He thought it was about strength, but in reality, it was really about control and balance. Shane continuously doubts Rick in season 2, saying how he doesn't have what it takes to keep his family safe or make the hard decisions. But Rick has been doing that on top of saving the entire group at every turn. Rick made the hard decision of going back into the city to get the guns, which he then returns that night with and saves the group from being driven into a corner. It was Rick's pleading that had Jenner open the gates at the CDC, saving them from spending the night on the road, potentially being stranded. And Rick saved the entire group yet again when Jenner wouldn't let them out. Yes, the CDC wasn't as safe as we thought, but that isn't on Rick. None of us knew what Jenner meant when he simply said these doors won't open again. It was Rick suggesting to Herschel about them staying at the farm, where they could rest comfortably, but Shane and the others from the group repeatedly messed it up. It's a miracle Herschel had a change of heart.
You know, we haven't even dealt with what you did at my barn yet. Now, I wanted you gone. Rick talked me out of it, but that doesn't mean I have to like it. So do us both a favor. Keep your mouth shut.
Rick started the idea of them organizing their supplies for the upcoming winter, using their knives more instead of unnecessary gunfire. How the cold affects the walkers. Shane was too busy staring out the car window thinking about himself. Rick made the hard decision of convincing Lori to let Shane train Carl to handle a gun. And in the end, Carl saves an unaware Rick from a reanimated Shane. Rick is a damn good leader who saves the people of his group at every turn, even if they or the viewers don't see it. Now, at first, I could understand why people blamed Lori for Shane's decline, but not after my most recent rewatch. She did tell Shane to stay after he brings back the medical supplies for Carl, but I honestly don't see how people can assume she wanted him to stay out of love and not protection. Think about it. When Rick is out of commission in the hospital, Shane is there to protect her and Carl. Lori and Shane go on to have a sexual relationship. Shane protects them at the Atlanta camp until Rick finds them, then Lori tells Shane her and Carl aren't his problem anymore. After being shot, Rick is busy giving blood to Carl, so he can't do much else unless he wants to go unconscious. And Shane comes back with the medical supplies for the surgery, which is where Lori tells him to stay with the group. However, an episode later, when Shane asks her if she meant it and Lori goes on to say she did, he immediately starts acting weird and Lori has a face of regret because she knows that was a mistake.
All right, then.
She consistently confronts Shane time after time in season 2, reiterating what they had before is done. Rick is her husband, the father of Carl, and her unborn baby. There is nothing left to say. Lori and Shane's relationship was based on transactions. Once Rick came back and essentially took over, there wasn't anything Shane could do. Lori wanted Shane to stay just as a crutch, nothing more. He repeatedly disobeys the rules Herschel has laid out. I can't really blame him for the actions he conducted on the barn because I do believe that was a situation waiting to go bad, but that's really it. The Randall situation was absolutely mishandled on Shane's part. Killing was an option and Rick was willing to do it after Randall reveals he knows Maggie, which means he knows where the farm is. But Rick couldn't do it after Carl wanted to watch the execution. He didn't like who his child was becoming. Even Shane had an issue with it. Regardless of that, leading Randall out into the middle of the woods under the disguise of letting him go just to brutally kill him in the end, come back to the group, make up a story, isolate and try to kill Rick so you can have his family is absolutely disgusting and inexcusable. Even if we ignore all that, the man literally tried to assault Lori, and when she confronts him about it, he tries to flip it around on her.
I have a few mistakes under my belt, Lori. So do you.
I honestly feel like too many people skip over that part. Lori didn't play any games with Shane. Regardless, he's a grown man who can make his own decisions. If Lori was truthfully being flip-floppy with her emotions, he has the final say in whether he reciprocated or not. Shane's way of doing things isn't hard, and Lori puts it into perspective perfectly during the episode Chupacabra.
And your way isn't harder. It's the easiest thing in the world to cut our losses and to not help.
Shane didn't adapt to the end of days faster than anyone. He literally lost his mind and was willing to put the rest of the group at risk if it meant he keeps Lori and Carl. If we really want to be honest here, Shane absolutely lost it in the late season 1. Aiming his gun at Rick, trying to take Lori against her will at the CDC, then shifting the blame to her, Shane was not misunderstood. He was a narcissistic, manipulative, pathetic man, and y'all need to stop giving him the benefit of the doubt. In the end, Shane's story isn't about good versus evil. It's about control versus acceptance. Rick learned to adapt. He lost, he grieved, and he changed without losing the part of himself that still cared. Shane couldn't do that. He thought surviving meant dominating, not enduring. When people say Shane was right, what they really mean is that he was first. He was the first to see how cruel the world could get. But seeing it and becoming it are two very different things. Because Shane didn't survive the apocalypse, he became it. And that's why Shane Walsh isn't misunderstood. He's exactly who the apocalypse needed to expose. The man who thought the world broke him, when really it just showed him who he always was.